to? LinkedIn. What else? Okay, I believe we're on. Yes, we are. Okay, welcome back. Hi. Okay, so 2 important things today. Number one, today's topic is brought to you by you. So it's a viewer's choice topic, and I wanted to thank you for your tuning and your request. Thank you very much for that. Also, today is my birthday, so I have a little pep in my step, and it's really wonderful to be sharing these good vibes with you guys. So thank you so much for joining in. Okay, so let me introduce myself real quick while you guys are setting up. Let me make sure. Okay. Hello, welcome back. Thank you. My name is Nicole Melendez, and I'm a designer specializing in technical design and pattern making. And my business is partnering with Makers Row and the embark.live platform, which is an online community that connects entrepreneurs and small businesses to business category experts. I have pinned the link below so you can get connected to the Embark Live, as well as reach out to me directly at Makers Row. So you see at the bottom of your screen, over there and over here, it's to sign up at Embark Live, and you can reach me at nicole.com /Nicole-Melendez. So thank you so much for that. For those who are new today, the main focus of my business is to help bridge the communication gap between concept and sample. And the way we do that is by helping designers create the foundations needed for factories to develop samples or bulk produce a line. That includes pattern making, tech packs, graded specs, which are sizes, fit development, construction information, and anything technical design related, as well as working with your factory or your production team. Thank you so much. Okay, so friendly reminder, this live is being recorded via Restream, and if you miss some of my points or if I miss your questions, you can replay the live by going to the Makers Row IGTV or Facebook, and you can play and pause as many times as you like and reach out to me with any questions. Okay, so let's dive in today's topic, which is budgeting for development. And today, while we talk about how to do a budget for your development, we will break down the cost and components of the steps and items required before you bulk produce a line. Before we even think about bulk producing a garment or a full line, we need to develop it. This means that we need to make it for the first time. First pattern, first sample, first fit. Development in the fashion industry has 6 items in the checklist. So I broke it down into checklists. And the goal of the game is to go through this checklist within a specific period of time. In our case, in my company's case, we work within a 6 to 8 week time frame, which is it's normal. So I'm going to list them first, and then I will break down how they work cohesively. So the 6 are: number 1, it's tech pack and fabric sourcing. They go hand in hand. And number 2 is pattern making. Number 3 are samples. Number 4 are fittings. Number 5 will be to approve the graded specs. And number 6 is to digitize the pattern. So that's our development checklist. Let's break down how these 6 points work together and how we're going to budget for them, which is the reason why you guys are here today. So that's number 1, we talked about the tech pack. Let's start over there. So the tech pack comes in handy both to list and organize each component per style. And this will help you make a production budget for each style in front of you, assuming you have more than one. If you have one, that's fine. Well, you have a tech pack per style. And the best way to have a clear picture of what each garment costs, and if you can make a profit at your estimated retail price, is by making a list of each component needed to make that specific garment. Components listed in the tech pack are fabric, trims, labels, and packaging. In addition to that, you will have construction and sketches to instruct how to make this garment, and this will help determine the labor cost. We talked about this, but I wanted to go over it a little bit. This document that includes all this information, plus documenting on fitting, which is very important, the fit comments, and finally the graded specs could cost around $170. So now we have a price for number one, which is tech pack. So once we have an idea of what you want to develop, we move on to point number two, which is pattern making this garment. And one thing you won't cut costs on is pattern making itself. And I'll explain why. So depending where the pattern is made, at least within the US, pattern making costs can range from $250 to $400 per style, but it could go up depending on the complexity of the design. And so I think I've explained that before, but let's break that down. So as pattern makers, we need to make sure that the pattern matches together, that it is shaped correctly and in accordance to the sketch handed to us. And they make sure that all the measurements are harmonious in relation to the model specs and the desired fit. So engineering a garment properly, it is a lot of work, but there are ways to make it cost effective. I explained in detail how to make this cost effective in a previous live I held. So I'm going to invite you to see that live, but to summarize, patterns can cost you anywhere from $250 to $400 plus per style. And it will all depend on the complexity of the construction and the amount of pattern pieces to be made. So that was point number two. I will summarize this in the end, so we'll have a list of all the costs. So let's move on to point number three and number four, which are fitting and sampling, and this go hand in hand. The fitting process starts after the first pattern is drafted, and a sample is cut using this first pattern draft, right? So the fitting process usually goes through 2 to 3 rounds of sampling per style. So you would have to budget maximum for 3 samples per style. That would be first fit, second fit, and pre-production sample. So the third fit, you should be ready to go. Now, a good technical designer will aim to go from the first fit to upgrading the second fit to pre-production sample for 3 main reasons: cost, design accuracy, and production calendar. But to circle back to this live topic, it's mainly to cut on sampling costs. Depending where the sample is made, at least within the US, sample costs, I'll go back to your questions in a minute. So I was saying that sample costs can range from $100 to $350 plus per sample. In addition to that, since we're in the sample and fitting topic, in addition to that, each fitting is charged by the hourly rate. That's important to ask when you're budgeting for your development with the company that you're doing your development with. And this hourly rate could change. It could range from $50 and up for the fitting itself. Mostly depends on the company rates, like I just mentioned. And if you're using a paid fit model, this could add up. You don't have to have a paid fit model, but if you do have one, just add it to that budget. Talking about cost effectiveness, since we were talking about earlier, it is important to mention that in a fitting session, you can wrap up a few garments within 1 hour session. So you can actually fit a couple garments within 1 hour. So that cuts on costs. Okay, here we go. Now that we have talked about points 1 through 4, let's review our costs so far. Maybe that will answer some of the questions that you guys have. So we talked about the first 4 out of the 6, right? So we talk about tech packs, which is $170. Pattern making, which it could be anywhere from $250 to $400 plus. Samples, which could be anywhere from $100 to $350. And remember that in terms of samples, we have to budget for our first fit and a second fit. And number 4, fitting sessions, which could start at $50 and up to make sure that your fit is properly done before you approve anything for production. Super important. Sorry. I'm gonna go through the points and then I'll go back to your questions. Okay, so those were those four. Our last 2 points, which are 5 and 6, are to approve the graded specs and digitize the pattern. So graded specs, just to talk about what they are a little bit, graded specs are included in the tech pack, but specs cannot be approved until the last fit is approved. It is important that before we approve anything for production, the second fit sample changes are made to the pattern before it gets digitized and graded, because you don't want to make that expense if we have to revise the pattern itself. And then this pattern should follow approved graded specs of the sample size as per second fit comments. That is if we are upgrading this to a pre-production sample, the second fit. If not, we need to budget in a third and final sample. Like I said, it should not go over your third, and your third sample should be your final. You should not pay more than that. So the approved graded spec in your tech pack is used for grading digitally the pattern, but before it gets graded, the approved and revised pattern is digitized. So before anything gets graded and you start that pre-production process, you need to digitize your pattern. So getting that pattern digitized can cost around $75 per style. So in the end, because we'll mention now all 6, we transition you with, or at least you should transition from your development into pre-production, ready to produce, with a graded spec, approved, full tech pack and digital patterns once a fit is approved into the factory of your choice. So that's how we transition you. So to recap, our budget includes 5 things. So we mentioned the 6 checklist of the development, but your budget is going to include 5 things. The full tech pack, including a graded spec, which is $170. The pattern making, which could range from $250 to $400 plus, depending on the complexity of your design. The samples, which could be anywhere from $100 to $350. And remember, we have first fit and second fit to budget. The fitting sessions, which are $50 and up each hour, so each 1 hour. And that does not include the paid fit model if you're going to have a paid fit model. And the digital pattern, which is $75. So those 5 things. Our aim as a technical design hub and pattern making team is to not only give you the most efficient process, but also integrate you as the designer in this process. Super important. Technical designers have the experience of communicating with any factory or production team, and this will give you the freedom to choose a factory according to what the strong suit of that factory is. So I'm gonna open for questions now. Let me go back to make sure that I didn't miss anyone. Hi, JC. Hi, Eugene. Thank you for joining in, everybody. Thank you for the birthday wishes. I love being part of Embark Live. Thank you so much. Okay. Question number 1. How much room in terms of money should I allow for mistakes? Well, I don't think we should call them mistakes. What I broke down, usually if you have an experienced pattern maker, that pattern maker will break down what it needs from you. First of all, you guys will talk about fabrics. You guys will talk about model specs. I have a few here. Let me see. I cannot show the company, but this is an example of the specs that we're gonna need. And then, so using those specs, we talk about the fit of the garment, and then we talk about the fabric, and then we go into the first pattern. Is it gonna be perfect? Probably not, because you're gonna have that first fit, but that's where we're allocating a budget for a second fit. That said, after the first fit, we've had enough communication between first pattern, first fit, going into those revisions into the second fit to make sure that we are nailing that fit. Therefore, we can save you money on making a pre-production sample if it's not needed, unless, which I had a fitting, which was it's an example. You change some design details, like you go from a crew neck and all of a sudden you want a mock neck, and you don't want the long sleeve anymore. You want it to be a sleeveless, but the sleeve is a little bit more the athletic kind of design. So those type of things, you go in understanding that, okay, we fitted the first fit, now going to the second fit is a different design. So most likely you'll have to budget in a third sample. So, and then there's the pattern making, and the time that we have to allocate to do this. So it's not really a mistake. It's more like it's a development process itself as it is. Eliana, I hope that this answers your question. Second question, what is the price range for a children's underwear, specifically girls' briefs with waistband and leg trim, and boys' boxer briefs with waistband and leg trim? Okay, I cannot give you a price on children's wear because I'm not, I specialize on menswear and women's wear per se. I would say though that the way this live helps you is that you have an idea of how much things cost, and in terms of like tech pack won't change because the same amount of work goes into it. Pattern making, I'm sure there's a range for that, but then again, Makers Row has factories that I know that or pattern makers that I know that work with children's wear, so they will be able to tell you more about that. But use the range that I gave you, $250 to $400 plus for the range of pattern makers, so you have an idea. So basically, this live will help you, or anyone who does children's wear, is to break down exactly what our labor is, so you understand what we're charging you for. Now, what each company charges you, it really depends. I give you a range. I'm giving you prices that I charge, and I'm also giving you a range of what you're going to find in the market. So you can definitely find that you might fall within this range. I hope that answers your question. Besides design and development, do you also help with production coordination? So I help with all the fitting, pattern making, and the tools that you're going to need to be able to go from development into pre-production and the production setting, where that's with a factory or with a production team that you're working with. That's what I do. I facilitate. I make sure that everything is properly done. So by the time you get there, there's no hiccups, there's no issues. It's all about ordering and following up according to the production calendar and what the factory needs. But I do help communicate with them through your production if that's part of the question that you're asking. So absolutely, we can help. We can communicate with them if during any steps they have like questions. We are the people that they should ask, because we did all that for you. So hope that answers that question. Is the 0.3 sample cost is per sample? Yes, it's cost per sample. So samples, I said they range from 100 to 350, and it's per sample ordered. And again, depending on the complexity of the design and the labor that goes into it. But yes, but your factory, that's a range. Depending on what it is, the type of garment, you can discuss that with your factory or with us, and we can definitely help you around that. Hope that answers your question, Naida. You're very welcome. Okay, let me see if I have any questions here. No. Let me jump into this end. Okay. So we're doing really good on time, you guys. So I hope that answered any questions. What I'll do is that I'll just recap really quick. What the budget was, in case there was any confusion before. So we have 5. You need to ask. You need to budget for a full tech pack, and that should include your graded specs, pattern making, samples, fitting sessions, and that might add up if you have a paid fit model, and then the digital pattern. So those 5 things is what you need to move into the pre-production phase. I see another question popping up. Now, because of COVID, are you doing fittings virtually or in your studio? I'm actually doing them virtually. And they are very successful, and we have a lot of fun doing them. I've had a couple this week. I have a few next week. I also did a whole live event that is on the Makers Row IGTV on how we fit virtually, and we break it down and what exactly do you need to have a successful virtual fitting with us. You're very welcome. What about sales help after we get production? No, I don't do sales, but I have seen amazing sales and marketing teams that are in Makers Row. So I really invite you, because I enjoy them very much, to go through the Makers Row Live or the embark.live platform, and you'll find amazing companies that are linked with Makers Row and embark.live that can, take your line, your brand, and to the next level. So we don't do sales. We're just the engineering side of fashion, but for sure, Makers Row has definitely the tools for you to help you find the team that can help you. Hope that answers your question, Obnia. Hi, Jenny. When the patterns are digitized, would I get the patterns printed and a copy of the files? Would the company keep my files as well? So at least with us, you get the original pattern. You get the digital file, and if you want us to print it, we can do that for you. But usually I just give you the original, so you have the original to keep for yourself, and the digital, so that one you can send to any factory of your choice, and they should be able to open it and print it also. If they have the capability to open the patterns, they should have the capability to print it too. Hope that answers your question. You had a last question, sorry. Would the company keep my files? I usually keep them for a certain amount of time, just in case you like, hey, Nicole, I can't find this. And I'll be like, no worries, here it is. But it's important to mention that those are your files. We don't use them. We don't copy. We don't distribute them in any way. They're just for safekeeping, part of our company archives. But that's about it. But you have them. You sent everything to you. Hope that answers your question, Jenny. Does your company have relationships with manufacturers willing to produce despite the pandemic? Yeah, absolutely. We're here. We're working. We're willing to work. So yes, Makers Row has a roster of people that are like ready to work. Even if you go to the lives, there are some of the women that speak there and the guys that they own factories and they're willing and ready to work. And yes, we're ready. We take a lot of precautions, of course, but we are working. We're out there. We're working. Do you have resources to find fit models? Yes, there's a couple of companies that I've used. They're not cheap. Usually fit model starts hourly if you are using fit agencies, $200, $250. That's why I said that you don't have to find a paid fit model. If you have someone or yourself that have the measurements of your sample size, that's an option. You don't have to fit, you don't have to use an agency, but if you want to, because they're super useful too, for sure, I can help you find that. Hope that answers your question. You're very welcome, Omnia. Thank you. Hi, Na. Do you have manufacturers you work with in Los Angeles? I live in San Diego, so driving up to LA would be a good drive too. Of course, I know. There is one, and they're actually in Makers Row too, funny enough. But there are a few that I can help you with too. But definitely there's a couple that are in Makers Row, and I suggest that you reach out to those first because they are really good. Actually, one of them is actually on the lives constantly, and she's pretty sick. So yeah. So I suggest that you definitely, I think it's called Lefty Productions. It's in that area. But I know a couple too, if you need options. Hope that answers your question, Aina. Eliana, Do you help with factories recommendations after design apps development? Yes. So we can definitely help you, whether you have a list that you would like to interview, and we also made a live on how to interview your factories, or you can bet the factory that made your sample. It's another way of knowing if that factory is right for you or not, or if you have to take your sample to any factory, whether you research it for it on your own, or if you find it via MakerShow or the embark.live platform. Hope that helps, Eliana. Thank you, guys. Okay, so we are running a little bit out of time. Let me see if there's any questions here. We're good on this end. Okay. All right. So our time is up. But I hope that the points that we discussed today help you understand the cost and components of the steps and items required before you bulk produce a line, to be able to budget properly for this process. Because super important, as you guys know. Our aim is to leave you feeling in a good place, whether you are a veteran or a new designer, because it will give you the peace of mind to clearly have a bird's eye view of your investment pre-production. So thank you so much for tuning at the Makers Row Embark Live platform, and make sure that you click on the link at the bottom of the screen and join. Here you will find many experts that are available to help you bring your product to market, like myself. So you can reach out to me on the Makers Row site, makersrow.com / Nicole Melendez. You're very welcome. Thank you so much for the birthday wishes, everyone, and have a great Wednesday.